Hey there, cooking chipmunks. Welcome to Cooking with Emily. I'm your host, Angry Chipmunk, and today we're going to be making enchiladas. So let's get this thing started by going over our ingredient list. We have an onion, a lot of garlics because we're not only going to be put them in the mix, but put them in the guac that we're making. A bunch of chilies. We've got some cayenne chilies. We've got some jalapenos. I like the fresh chilies, but you can, of course, use the pickled chilies if you want. Today, we're having B2 veggie mince. You can, of course, use any kind of mince you want, or shredded chicken, or shredded beef, or pork, or whatever you like. For our spices, we've got plain chili, cumin, and this is the most important one, your smoked paprika. If you don't have this, don't bother. You need this one. We're also going to be adding some chipotle in adobo sauce. And if you hear me refer to it as chipotle, that's because we're making fun of somebody from years ago who thought he was a foodie and literally called it chipotle. Some white vinegar to do something to the mix. I'm not actually sure what it does, but it makes it taste better, so just go with it. Today we have Old El Paso Mexi beans and whole black beans. You can use whichever beans you want. I use these two because they taste good, and we had something else last week, so we went with this one's this week. Same with the enchilada sauce. We had la costeña the other week, so we're just doing this one this week. This one's not bad, actually. I think it's got like anise seed in it, which makes it for an interesting flavor, so not bad. And on the top, we're going to be putting this bad boy, which is, I think, actually the most perfect green bell pepper I have ever seen in my entire life. And I just think that everybody should admire this thing before I slice it open. And of course, your two must-haves for your food-making adventure, snackin' corn chips and a food-making drink. This one today is vodka and that weird new blue Pepsi. It's actually quite good, but this can also be whichever thing you want it to be. So we're going to get started on this, and I'll see you in a minute. Welcome back. Snack and chip, very important. Very important. Cannot stress that enough. Let's get started. You don't need to be super fancy with the chopping of the parts, I feel. So we'll just go ahead and get them chopped. Now, some of these garlics will be for the guac that we're going to make as an accompaniment, so we don't have to get all of them sorted out right now. Let's just take, these three. That looks good. That's a good amount. And as always, cut the little ends off that connected to your clove. You don't need those. They're yucky. And then, can't remember where I saw this, maybe Jacques Pepin. Give her a smack. Whoops. And either you will completely obliterate your garlic clove, or it'll be smacked just enough that you can get the skin off without too much difficulty. That one just obliterated. That was maybe a bit too hard of a smack. Also, use the butt of your hand because otherwise it just hurts. I have bruised my hands before. Get rid of that yucky bit. Be a little more gentle. You only really need to hear it crack, and you'll really hear it when it cracks. Then, but you have to smush your garlics because that releases the oils, and the oils is what makes the flavor. So there's no point in having non-smushed garlics anyway. Okay, and before we get started on the chilies, let's put the pan on. We're using gas today with a Tefal mineral pan. So we're going to put it at about medium-low heat because this pan actually holds its heat pretty well and sends it up. So we're going to do that. And while we're waiting for the pan to heat up just that little bit, we'll start in on the chilies. Because we have multiple jalapenos, I'm only going to save the last one for the guac. So the first few will just go, whoopsie, seeds in, of course. I don't know why anyone would take the seeds out. Seems like a silly thing to me, but I guess some people don't like their food spicy. All this will go in together to soften together, so I'm not too concerned about mixing it here. And you know what they say? They say when you have colorful food, it's healthier. So we need to have colorful food, right? Now I'm wearing a glove because I hurt my hand at work. But also, if you're not really used to making chilies, or you're one of those kind of people who touches your face, wear a glove if you're cutting chilies. Never, never touch your face while you are cutting chilies. Especially never touch your eyes. I did that once. Never again. Lesson learned. So, gloves are safe. But also, if you can remember to just wash your hands, you should be okay. All right. Gonna throw these in the pan, and then we'll get to our last chili, which is gonna be part of our guac. So I will throw that one in separately. Olive oil is good enough. There's no real need to use anything else. See, already great colors. Just warm enough. We're not going to burn our garlic, we're not going to burn our onions, and most importantly, we're not going to burn our chilies. I don't know what burned chilies taste like, but I imagine it's bad. So, while that's sweating for a minute, let's go finish up our last chili and other garlics for the guac. And for the guac, I always like to add some, I forgot to save some of the cayenne for the guac, but I always like to add, you know, a few rounds, but then chop them up real tiny so you get that fresh jalapeno flavor. If you don't like that, that's cool. But I like it. Just give these a oopsie daisy. small as your taste buds like them. Will be good enough. Your gloves get a little bit stuck on the knife though, so it's a trade-off. Oops. I think there's like a fancy way that like Italian nonnas put their knife into the garlic and just managed to skewer it out. I've tried. All I managed to do was twist the garlic. So if you can do it that way, that is even simpler. But I cannot. You don't want that. I know sometimes they remove the core because apparently it's bitter or something, but I feel like that's kind of the essential flavor of garlic, so if you want to remove it, you can remove it. I'm not gonna. Okay. About time to have some more of that meal making drink, and then we should check on our pan. It's looking pretty good, right? Getting a nice color on those bad boys. And by color, I mean lack of color. It's becoming translucent. The chilies won't go soft just yet, but once we add the mince, they'll cook in and the flavor will, you know, do what flavor does. Blorp, just like that. Me, I just go in with the spatula and pretend like this bad boy owes me money. If you're using one of these mineral pots, real important to use a plastic spatula. You don't want to scratch it and damage it. If you're using cast iron, really important to use a wooden spatula so you don't damage it. If you're using, what is stainless steel, you can probably use whatever you want. I don't really know. I don't have a pot like that. Yes, I did see that seed go flying. Right, that looks pretty well broken apart. Let's get to spicing. I always do a little salt and pepper because, I don't know, seems like you should, but I don't think you really need to. Like, what's the necessity? Chilies, spices, I've never once measured these in my life, so you just add it until it looks right. Oh, and that was the end of the chili powder, so that looks about right. The cumin, I don't add as much cumin as I add other spices because I feel like the cumin is a really strong flavor, so just enough to taste it, not enough to overwhelm it. The paprika, go hog wild. That's the one I really want to shine through, so it's the one I use the most of every single time. Especially if it's smoked, you'll really get that good flavor come through. Just let that incorporate a little bit. Not too much, not too little. If all of your mince is coated, that's a good amount of spice, I'd say. I mean, it is personal preference, of course, but, you know, let's just use this as a small rule of thumb. And here is where you put in the vinegars. I don't know what it does, but it does something to spicy food. Makes it better somehow. So just a touch. I think it's supposed to bring out the flavor or something. I'm not, but yeah. And then the most important ingredient before everything else, the chipotle in adobo sauce. I think you can get it without the adobo sauce, which is also quite good. This one has a bit of a kick to it, so if you're not really into the spicy, maybe leave this one out. It's not super spicy, but it's spicy enough, you know. Give her a big mix. All right, we're going to leave that to sit for a couple of minutes while we prepare the beans. And we're back. Now is a perfect time to grab some of that drink you made for while you're cooking. Just helps lift the spirits, you know. Now we're going to add our beans to our mix. Like I said, we've got our black beans, which of course we rinsed. Always rinse your black beans. Part of the reason why I like these Mexi beans is that they come in some kind of sauce, which actually thickens quite nicely when you put it into the mix. So it doesn't just leave it quite, you know, dry and crumbly, but it also is a little bit neater than a refried bean, I find. But obviously, if you prefer refried beans, then you just go ahead and use them. But I feel like you gotta cook the refried beans separately and then put it in. It's kind of just a pitta. So I'm gonna turn that down. We don't need to be burning our beans. Give her a mix. But see how now it's like all coated? That's why I like that bean mix. I think the La Costeña black bean and pinto bean both come in a sauce, so you don't need to rinse those. But if the serving size is different to the total weight size, so like if the total weight is 420 grams, but the serving size is 3 by 75 grams or whatever, and it doesn't add up to 420, then you need to rinse them. But if the serving size adds up to whatever it says on the front, you're good to go. Also, you can just look at the ingredients list, and if it says like there's sauce and jalapenos and tomato and stuff in there, then you know you can eat the sauce. And I totally forgot, we're gonna be adding some rice. This is just the Uncle Ben's rice. You can add whatever rice you like. I like this one because it's got some spices in it. It's got some corns in it. So, you know, you can see those later. White rice works, whatever kind of rice you want. Wild rice works. This just adds a lot of texture to the food, and it also bulks it out so much that this turns from a 3-meal food to a 4-meal food for us. So you'll be getting a whole lot extra enchiladas or burritos or whatever. Yeah, because this is pretty much, this is just the same as the burrito mix. It's not pretty much the same. It's exactly the same. But we're just going to bake them. So that's all. All right, let's leave this to get friendly and get to know each other a little bit. Let's make some guac. We have a couple of nice ripe avocados. We have our container We have our knife, we have our corn chips, which is important because as soon as we make it, we have to test it. I'm gonna get some lime juice. Also, we're going to want some salt and probably that paprika that we already put away earlier. I don't use the chipotle sauce in this because I find that it overpowers the avocado taste too much. It is good, but just overpowering sometimes. Ooh, look at that. Give it that. Give it that. That was a good looking avocado. Let's just mash. These are nice and soft. Perfectly ripe. No need to have any excess cutting or anything. Just mashing. I don't like to blend it. I like chunks of avocado, you know. I think that's better than perfectly smooth guac. I don't put any kind of cream or anything weird like that I've seen sometimes. I think it tastes strange. I just like the avocado and spices and that's it. Don't like that. Got a little bit of salt. A lot of bit of paprika. Whoops. Be careful now so you don't splash all that paprika out of your container. Sorry, not paprika, lime juice. Nobody wants that mess. I think it's going to need more salt. But first, the taste test. Yeah, needs a little more salt and a little more lime. And now, we need a second opinion. Handy dandy cameraman, give us your thoughts. Approved. We're going to set this aside in the fridge until we need it. We're going to let that mix cook for another, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes while we get everything else sorted out. And we'll be back here to prepare the enchiladas for the oven, which includes prepping the cheese, prepping the green pepper, getting all of our ingredients laid out so it's not a mess and it's ready to just bloop, 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 straight into the oven. All right, let's get to rolling these bad boys. We are going to go with approximately 100 grams of mix per wrap. Put them in the big thing before we finish up getting them ready to go. This one is kind of small, so this one is likely to have a little bit less, and we'll just make it up in another wrap. Because size consistency is not something that these things really excel at. That's hot. Personally, when I do enchiladas, I like to just close one end because I don't like all of the guts to spill out, but I do like to have them opened. Always I face the flap to the right, but you can do it either way. I would just recommend consistency so that when you're pulling them out of the pan, they're all going the same direction and you can get your spatula under it without getting your spatula into that fold. All right, and we have an awkward amount of mix left. As you can see, there's like, what, 2 really lightweight wraps left in there, or a perfect amount of mix for a mid-afternoon nacho snack. So let's save this for nachos. That glub was yucky, so we'll just throw it away. Now, it's time to sauce. Sours. Oh, somebody forgot to do arm day. I'm not going to measure this. I'm just going to pour it on. You can measure it if you want. It's maybe a bit much. How many is this? Is 6 and this is 8. So it's probably a bit much for this many enchiladas. I think that amount of mince is, that's only 400 grams. If you were maybe making this with half a kilo of mince, you could get a lot more burritos out of it. So that's just something to bear in mind. And by burritos, I meant enchiritos. Or burritos, whichever you prefer. If you have a long-handled spoon, you can get right down to the bottom, get all of that extra out of there, so you don't have to put it down the drain or anything like that. Just give her a good smear. Yeah, pretty good. And now, for the thing that I do that's apparently pretty weird according to ChatGPT, black olives. I didn't know this was weird, but apparently it is. I think the flavor that mixes with black olives and enchiladas is really good, or burritos, or whatever, because to me, black olives have a kind of a subtle nutty flavor, and somehow that just works really well with the spicy flavor. If you don't like them, that's your prerogative, but you wrong though. I like to put this stuff under the cheese so that it doesn't burn when it's being baked. I also like too many olives because I love them. Always got to test your ingredients, make sure they're okay. Passes the vibe check. Didn't mean to glop them all in one spot, but these are cameraman's enchiladas. And he doesn't like black olives as much as I do. So we'll give him a few less, a bit more spread out. Whoopsie. We also chopped up our perfect green pepper to put on top of here. It will go a little soft in the oven, but still the crunch and flavor is nice. It adds a nice fresh taste, I think. Again, optional. You can add whatever you want on top. This is just a suggestion, but it's a good one, so try it. I feel like this might be a pineapple on pizza kind of thing. Either you like it or you don't. I do. I also like pineapple on pizza, and I just heard the entire country of Italy. But they also don't know who I am, so it doesn't really matter. And now we are ready for the true star of the show, which is the cheese topping. That's right, the cheese topping. We have available to us here in Australia Colby cheese. We don't have all the fancy cheese that you get in America, so this is just Colby cheese. It's got a really subtle flavor. It melts really, really well. Anything you need to melt grilled cheese sandwich, put on top of a schnitty or anything like that, really good cheese choice. We're also going to pair it with this smoky chipotle cheddar and tasty cheese. Tasty cheese is kind of a cheddar cheese. This chipotle and this is not too spicy, so if you're not really into that spicy flavor, but you still want something a little bit kicky, this is a good choice. Too much cheese is not enough cheese, so we're going to load these up. Somebody once asked when Cam was eating leftover enchiladas if it was lasagna. I was a little spicy about that, but that's how much cheese you should add. If you don't like dairy cheese, don't eat dairy cheese. If you're vegan, I'm sure that you have a cheese that is your preference. But basically, you want enough cheese that you are farting before you even put these in the oven. Then you know you have the right amount of cheese. I'm gonna need some more cheese there. The other bonus of this chipotle cheese is that it's kind of orangey colored, so you're going to get a nice contrast when it's done baking, which, I don't know, is great. Makes the food look good. The orange cheese makes it look a bit, you know, happy. There we go. I'll finish up that other one and we'll put these in the oven. All right, we finished cheesing this. So now we're going to go ahead and pop it into an oven that's been turned on. It's at 180 degrees Celsius. Cameraman editor is going to put up what that is in Fahrenheit because I don't know. We'll come back and check on these in about 10 minutes. They might need to be spun or something like that. For now, we wait and clean up. All right, our enchiladas are done. So let's get these bad boys out of the oven. Left them in for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something and spun them. Gave them another few minutes. Oh, look at that. Nice and sizzly. Nice color across the top. We've got some brown, we've got some melt. Not too much brown, We'll get those others on the pasta there. But for now, we're going to let them sit for a few minutes because they're too hot to take out of the pan right now. But once they've stopped sizzling a little bit and cooled down, we'll get them served up. All right, chipmunks, hopefully you've been enjoying your meal prepping drink. We've let these enchiladas sit for a few minutes. They're not bubbling anymore, so good sign that we can serve them up. Before we do that, let's have a quick look at the bottom of the tray. As you can see, with all of the flaps pointed in the same direction, we can easily just get them out without worrying about doing anything drastic to the insides. I didn't mean to smack that down so hard, but we did, so we'll just deal with it. And I already know that the open end means that the flaps are going left to right. So I don't even need to look at it to know which way I need to take these out of the pan, which is handy to know. If you do it the same way every time, it just makes it that much easier when it comes time to serve them up. I ripped it anyway. Oops. Oopsie. All right. The best part about enchiladas is that cheese that sticks to the edge and gets that nice crunchiness to it. Whoops. Whoa. Well, this boy is a little bit floppy today, hey. Whoa. That's a win. We're calling that one a win. We're just gonna go with it. There is the edge. Let's try to get in there as best we can. The first ones are always the hardest. Obviously the second ones have a little bit more space. Hey, how about that? Not even mad, right? Well, not about this anyway. We are mad that Ciccone crashed out of stage 14 because that's a bit of a bummer. We're gonna go ahead and get that sour cream and guac we made earlier to dress these bad boys. If you want to do something like pickled jalapenos or hot sauce, if you want, you know, that is also valid, or some salsa or something like that. All of these are good, valid options, but I prefer just a line here, line here, and a fat line of this, because why not, right? Grab our corn chips that we had out from earlier for snacking upon. Put a couple of these bad boys on the side to pick up anything that you might have dropped. And boom, done. How that, right? It's gonna be tasty. You're gonna need some kind of drink to go with it, so hopefully you find something yummy. If it gets a little bit too spicy, remember that you should always have some kind of dairy to cool that down, so I would suggest ice cream. That's right, ice cream. All right, we're gonna go eat these, and we'll see you in the next one, chipmunks. Also, if you're going to come at me and say things like, "Angry chipmunk, that's not authentic," this is what we have available where I live, so this is what we make. And it tastes good, so that's good enough for me. Catch you next time, chipmunks.